morning. I want to show you my top 10 gardening tools. And they probably won't be what you think. So let's just jump right in. Number 1, chopstick. Chopsticks I use for all kinds of things in the garden. I use them when I'm moving little tiny germinated seeds into cells. I use them when I'm then transplanting from the cells into the soil of the garden. The chopstick is just indispensable. Number 2, tongue depressors. What I like to do with tongue depressors is they're wooden, so I can use them to write whatever my plant is that I'm planting, and then stick the tongue depressor outside in the garden or even just in the little cells, because I need to keep track of what I'm planting. Which brings me to number 3, which is a Sharpie, because you need to have a Sharpie to write on your tongue depressor so that if it rains or if it gets wet, the garden is a watery situation, that you can still see what you wrote. I need to know that I'm planting marigolds. Number 4, as you can see, I'm burning incense in the Florida room, and this is not just any incense. This is a citronella lemongrass blend of incense that's going to repel mosquitoes. I want to chase them away so I can hang out in the garden longer. Number 5, so this is just an old plate. I started putting my potting soil directly onto a plate and then germinating small seeds. Once they germinate, I move them into cells and flats. These little ramekins I also use because some seeds need to be soaked overnight. For example, lotus flowers, butterfly pea, bitter melons. All of those seeds are big, hard seeds, need to be scarified a little bit, which is where you use some sandpaper and kind of sand off the outer layer. I think it's called an endosperm. And then you soak your seeds in water. Ramekins are great for that. Soak them overnight, pull them out the next day, and put them into your soil so they can start germinating. You guys are gonna have to help me keep up with my numbers. Number 6, these are hori horis, H-O-R-I. And a hori hori is a garden knife. At least one of these is from Bare Bones. This one has a bit more, there's a small point on the end, but it's a little bit more blunt than this one that's got a real good sharp point on the end. So if I was using a hori hori to dig down into some soil and transplant a baby plant into the soil that was really loose, then I might use one that's more blunt. But like yesterday, I was planting directly into my yard where the soil was more compact, and so I had to use a sharper point to really get in there. I also like that the hori hori has a smooth knife edge and a serrated knife edge. I use the serrated knife edge a lot if I'm opening a bag of garden soil or potting soil. Number 7, of course, some watering cans. This little guy I like for inside of the Florida room when I'm germinating seeds, because it has a sprayer on the end. And oftentimes when your baby seeds are germinating, they can't really handle a big spout of water being poured on them. They need a more gentle touch, so you can spray them, or you can have a stream on the other end, just depending on how big your plants are. Then I have a bigger watering can for out in the garden. And I'm not crazy about plastics, but both of these are BPA-free plastics. And the reason why that's important in Texas is because it gets so hot. So if your watering can is sitting outside, I always keep my watering cans empty because I don't want the mosquitoes to be attracted to that standing water, which is where they lay their eggs. And, standing water is a mosquito situation waiting to happen. So I don't keep water in my watering can. But the reason why it's important is because if I was using a metal watering can, sometimes it's over 100 degrees outside in Texas. And so that watering can would get really, really hot. So number 8 are basket shears. I always use these same red and white basket shears because these are the kind of basket shears that I use for weaving baskets, making brooms. And I also use these as a teaching tool if I'm teaching other people how to make brooms. So I have a ton of these on hand. So that's the reason why I use these. I also like that this section right here is really big, so you can really get your hand in there. So these garden shears are excellent when it comes to harvesting. And hand in hand is a rubber band. When I cut back my herbs, I use my rubber band this is number 9. I use my rubber band to bundle the herbs together and then hang them to dry. Just the one rubber band. Shears and a rubber band, number 8, number 9. That brings us to number 10, which is a bundle. Of course, we have our flats and our cells. So just like how I use the plate, I'm using the flat to fill with soil. I water the soil with my watering can, making sure that it's nice and moist for whatever seeds I'm going to germinate. I put my seeds directly into this flat. I really like to use this method for germinating really tiny seeds. If you're starting something in a flat, you want to fill your soil, make it moist, sprinkle your seeds on top, tamp them in, which means to press them down into the soil, and put some kind of light source. Like I have my growing lights. I would put those directly close down to the soil to help those seeds germinate with the light. And once those seeds germinate and get, just a little tiny bit of growth on them, that's when I go in with my chopstick and just gently lift each seed up and move them into cells. So these are cells, they're all individual cells. And again, you would fill this with soil, water that soil to make it moist all the way through, so that you always want to transplant a wet root into wet soil. So that it's a wet situation when you're transplanting plants. Just think, you don't want to be all dry and thirsty when you get transplanted. So I would take my chopstick, loosen up my little baby seed that's germinated, and then use that same chopstick to make a little hole, put my new little transplant into a moist soil, and then again use that chopstick to situate the soil nice and snug around that baby plant. There are really not that many tools that you need, and they're not like really extravagant. They're very simple. You got your chopstick, your tongue depressor, a rubber band, but these things, when it comes to my work in the garden, are indispensable. They are always on hand, and I use them every single day. So, what tools do you like to use in your garden? If you like this video, please like it, click on the little heart, leave a comment to let me know what you think, and if you have any input, any questions, and tell your friends. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.